The moment I saw her sitting there alone, I knew I should turn around and walk out. Instead, I pulled out the chair across from her and heard myself say, "Miss Sanders, would you mind if I sit with you?" If you are watching this, tell me in the comments where you are watching from, because what happened after I sat down that night changed my life in a way I never saw coming. But to understand why it was so shocking, I need to take you back about 6 months. My name is Ethan Miller. I am 28 years old, and I live in Seattle. I design websites for small businesses, which sounds cooler than it feels when you have been staring at code for 9 hours straight. My days were simple. Wake up, make coffee, answer emails, work, microwave dinner, watch a show I did not care about, fall asleep on the couch, repeat. I had been single for almost a year. Before that, I dated a woman named Lauren Sanders for 2.5 years. Lauren was the kind of person who lit up every room. She sold high-end condos downtown and always seemed to know exactly what to say to make people like her. She was 3 years younger than me, but she felt 10 steps ahead of me in every way that mattered. When she broke up with me, she said something that stuck like a thorn under my skin. "You are a good guy, Ethan, but everything with you feels safe. I want a life that feels like a movie, not a routine." 2 weeks later, she was posting pictures with a DJ who traveled every weekend and took her to rooftop parties. For months after that, her words haunted me. Safe, routine, predictable. I kept asking myself if being steady meant I would always be the guy women left when they wanted fireworks. I tried to change. I took last-minute trips. I went to bars with my friends. I downloaded dating apps. Still, nothing felt right. Every date felt like an interview I did not pass. During the time I was with Lauren, I spent a lot of nights at her parents' house, Sunday dinners, holiday parties, random evenings when she wanted real food instead of takeout. That is how I met her mother, Diane Sanders. Diane was in her early 50s, but I never thought of her as old. She had this calm beauty that did not try too hard. Her dark hair had silver streaks that she wore proudly in a soft cut around her face. Her eyes were a steady blue, the kind that made you slow down when she looked at you because you could tell she was actually paying attention. Her husband, Mark, was loud and big and always telling stories about business deals. Lauren was always talking about clients and open houses. But Diane was different. She listened more than she talked. When she did speak, it was usually something simple and sharp that made everyone laugh or made you think. I remember one Sunday night. The kitchen was hot from the oven. Mark and Lauren were arguing in the other room about a sports game, both talking over each other. I was helping Diane dry dishes. She handed me a plate and said in a quiet voice, "They sound like they are fighting, but this is how they bond." I laughed and asked if that ever got exhausting. Diane smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Sometimes I feel like I live in a house full of fireworks and I am the only candle," she said. "People only notice me when everything else goes dark." I did not know what to say. I just looked at her. In that moment, I saw her not just as Lauren's mom, but as a person who was tired in a way I understood. I wanted to tell her I saw her. That her calm was not less than their noise. But I was the boyfriend at the table, so I stayed quiet. Even after Lauren and I broke up, I thought about that night sometimes. I wondered if Diane ever got to be more than the candle in the corner. If she ever did anything just for herself. Fast forward to that Thursday night in October. It had been a long day. A client wanted to redesign their whole site for the 3rd time. My back hurt from my chair. My brain was fried. I did not feel like cooking, so I stopped at this place I loved called Marlowe's. Dark wood tables, soft jazz, good pasta. Quiet enough to hear yourself think. They seated me near the middle of the room. I ordered my usual and pulled out a book, trying to forget about work and my boring life. After a few minutes, I looked up, and that is when I saw her, Diane. She was at a small corner table by the window, dressed in a simple navy dress that fit her just right. Her silver-streaked hair was styled. a thin chain necklace at her throat, a glass of red wine in front of her. She checked her phone, locked it, stared at the door, then looked down again. At first, my brain did not connect the dots. She looked different outside of the Sanders dining room. Softer, but also more exposed. Then it hit me. That is Diane. That is Lauren's mom. My first instinct was to duck my head and hide behind my menu. Our breakup had not been ugly, but it also was not friendly. I had not seen or spoken to anyone in Lauren's family since. Running into her mother in a restaurant was not on my list of things I wanted to deal with. I told myself to stay in my seat, to pay my bill and slip out quietly. But I kept watching her. She checked her phone again. Her thumb slid across the screen. Her eyes scanned something. Her shoulders dropped just a little. She took a sip of wine and tried to look relaxed, but I could tell she was waiting and getting more disappointed by the minute. One of the servers came by her table and spoke in a low voice. Diane gave a small, tired smile, waved it off, and ordered another glass. That was when it clicked. She was on a date, or trying to be. Something about that hit me hard. The idea of Diane Sanders, who always seemed so put together, sitting there alone in a nice dress while some guy did not bother to show up. It made my chest tight in a way I did not expect. My mind started arguing with itself. This is none of your business. She probably does not even want to see you. You are her daughter's ex. It will be weird. But then another thought cut through all of that. She should not have to sit there alone like that. I watched her stare at the empty chair in front of her. I watched the way she held herself straight, even though I could tell she wanted to sink into the floor. And before I could talk myself out of it, I was already standing up. My legs carried me across the room. Each step felt louder than it should. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. When I reached her table, I stopped and cleared my throat, suddenly aware of how crazy this might look. She looked up, and for a second, I saw surprise flash through those calm blue eyes. Then she recognized me. "Ethan," she said. My name and her voice hit like a memory and a question at the same time. "What are you doing here?" I gave a small smile. I hope looked casual and not terrified. "I was about to ask you the same thing," I said. "But it looks like you could use some company. Would you mind if I joined you?" She glanced at the empty chair in front of her, then back at me. I saw something pass across her face. Embarrassment, relief, maybe both. She nodded once, slowly. "No," she said. "I would not mind at all." I sat down across from my ex's mother in a dim Seattle restaurant, my hands slightly shaking under the table, having no idea that this one choice was about to turn both of our lives upside down. For a few seconds after I sat down, we just looked at each other. The clink of dishes and low music filled the space between us. I could feel the weight of every Sunday dinner, every past conversation, every memory of Lauren sitting at the same table as her mother. "I did not mean to intrude," I said finally. "If you want me to leave, just say the word." Diane let out a breath that sounded like she had been holding it for a while. "No," she said. "I am actually glad you came over." She gave a small, self-conscious smile. I did not plan on being the woman sitting alone in a fancy dress tonight. My eyes dropped to the table. There was only one wine glass, no extra plate, no coat on the other chair. "Were you meeting someone?" I asked gently. She looked at her phone again, then turned it face down. "I was supposed to," she said, "but I think it is safe to say he is not coming." Anger that had nothing to do with me or my life started rising in my chest. "He did not call," I asked. "Texted," she said, like that word tasted bitter. One line. Something came up. She shook her head. "I got ready anyway. Drove all the way here anyway. Sat here, convincing myself he would walk in at any minute." Her eyes met mine. "He will not." "I'm sorry," I said. "Do not be," she replied. "You are the only reason this is not a complete disaster of an evening." She took a sip of wine, then added, "You look good, Ethan. How have you been?" The question hit harder than I expected. Nobody had asked me that in a way that felt real in a long time. "I have been all right," I said. "Work is busy." My plants are not dead yet, which is something. My neighbor's dog still barks at me like I owe it money." She laughed, and it loosened something inside me. "What about you?" She leaned back slightly, thinking about her answer. "I have been in transition," she said. "Mark travels more. Lauren is always somewhere different. The house feels bigger than it used to." She shrugged one shoulder. "I joined a book club that mostly talks about wine. I tried yoga. I fell over 3 times. I am still deciding if I am proud I tried or embarrassed that I went." "I would pay to see you fall over in yoga," I said, then winced. I mean, in a supportive way. She laughed again, her eyes soft. "You always did have a very honest way of talking." A server came by and asked if I wanted to order anything else. Before I could answer, Diane spoke. "Can we get another glass and maybe some bread?" she asked. "We are staying a while." "We." Something about that small word sent a strange warmth through me. When the server left, she folded her hands on the table. "So," she said, "you and Lauren, I am guessing you are not getting back together." I took a slow breath. "No," I said, "I think that chapter is closed." She nodded, not in a cold way, but like she'd expected that answer. "She told me a little bit," Diane said. Her version, anyway. "Oh," I said carefully, "what did she say?" "That you are a good man," Diane said, "kind, steady, that you took care of her in ways she did not know she needed." Then she said she needs more excitement in her life. More risk. She frowned a little. I heard that, and all I could think was, she does not understand yet what actually matters. Quote, the word sounded so much like the thoughts that had been bouncing in my head for months that my throat tightened. "I guess some people need to crash a few times before they figure that out," I said. She watched me for a long moment. "Do you blame her?" she asked. I thought about it. About the late-night fights. The way Lauren looked at her phone while I talked. The way she had called me safe like it was an insult. "I do not blame her for wanting what she wants," I said slowly. "I just wish she did not have to break things to feel alive." Diane gave a small nod, like that matched something inside her. "Sometimes people confuse chaos with passion," she said. "They think if something is stable, it must not be deep." We fell quiet again, but this time it did not feel heavy. More like we were both thinking about different versions of the same story. As we ate bread and picked at the last of the pasta the server brought me, our conversation shifted. We moved away from the Sanders family and into safer ground. She asked about my work, and when I told her about designing sites for small businesses, she did not just nod politely. She asked questions. Real ones. What kind of clients do you like best? What makes a project worth your time? When do you feel most proud of what you do? I told her about a small bakery whose website I redesigned. How their online orders doubled. How the owner cried on the phone when she told me she could finally hire help. "That is not boring," Diane said softly. "That is you changing someone's life in a quiet way." I do not know why, but hearing it from her made my chest feel tight. When I asked about her, she surprised me. I always knew her as Lauren's mom, Mark's wife, the woman who made the roast. But she talked about herself, not just in relation to them. She used to paint before life got busy. She loved old jazz records and once dreamed of opening a small gallery. She had gone back to school for a while in her 30s and taken psychology classes just because she was curious about how people worked. "Why did you stop painting?" I asked. She took a slow breath. "Because there was always something more important," she said. "A track meet, a client dinner, a leaky roof. At some point, it felt selfish to spend 2 hours painting when I could spend those 2 hours keeping everything else from falling apart. Maybe selfish is not always a bad word," I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me like I had said something important. "Maybe," she said quietly. The restaurant thinned out around us. Couples left. Chairs scraped. Someone blew out a candle at a nearby table. Time kept moving, but I did not feel it. Sitting there with her felt strangely natural, not like talking to my ex's mother. More like talking to someone who had been walking beside me on a path I did not see until now. When the server finally brought the check, Diane reached for it. "I will get this," she said. "You saved me from a truly pathetic story tonight. It is the least I can do." "No," I said quickly. "Let me. I invited myself to your table. Also, this is my favorite restaurant. I cannot let you pay in my natural habitat." Quote. She smiled and let me take it. There was something easy about that moment. Almost domestic, almost normal. Outside, the Seattle air was cool and smelled faintly like rain and car exhaust. We stepped onto the sidewalk together. For a moment, we just stood there, the restaurant lights behind us, the street lights above us. "Thank you, Ethan," she said. "Tonight would have been awful without you." "Anytime," I said. "I mean, not that I want you to get stood up again. Just that if you are ever stuck in a restaurant alone, I am very good at eating bread and talking too much." She laughed quietly. Then her face grew more serious. "This was just two friends catching up," she said, choosing her words. "I hope you know that." The word friends stung in a way I did not want to admit. It was the right word. The safe one. The only one that made sense. Still, something in me resisted it. "Of course," I said. "I would never want to make things weird for you." She studied my face for a second, like she was trying to read something there. Then she nodded. "Good night, Ethan," she said. "Drive safe." She walked to her car. I watched her taillights disappear down the street before I headed to mine. On the way home, my mind would not settle. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Diane's face in the candlelight. Her tired smile when she talked about taking care of everyone else. The way she had leaned in when I said selfish might not be a bad word. By the time I pulled into my apartment lot, one thought had lodged itself so deep I could not shake it. Whatever tonight was, it did not feel like only friends catching up. And no matter how wrong or complicated it might be, I knew this was not the last time I wanted to sit across from her and listen to her talk. What I did not know yet was how soon I would see her again, and how a simple grocery store trip would turn everything even more upside down. I saw her again less than a week later, in the last place I expected, the grocery store. It was a Tuesday evening. I was wandering through the produce section with a basket that held three things I had no plan to combine. A frozen pizza, coffee, and a bag of baby carrots I grabbed so I would not feel completely unhealthy. I was debating between two different kinds of apples when I heard a familiar voice. "If you were going to eat them raw, the Honeycrisp are better." I turned and there she was, Diane, standing beside me with a small cart, reading glasses perched on her nose, studying apples like she was grading them. For a second, I just stared. Out of the restaurant, out of the dress, in jeans and a soft gray sweater, she looked both younger and more real. "You giving Apple advice now?" I asked. She smiled. "Only to people who look very confused." "I am extremely confused," I said. "About most of my life, but also about these apples." She laughed, and, just like that, the tightness in my chest eased. Her cart held actual grown-up food. Vegetables, chicken, real bread. A single bottle of wine rested on top. "Cooking for someone?" I asked before I could stop myself. She shook her head. "Just me," she said. "Ronald is in Chicago for the week. Lauren is somewhere sunny, I think." I decided to eat something that does not come in a box. I looked down at my frozen pizza and felt called out. "Sounds nice," I said. "Real cooking." "It feels strange," she admitted. "For years I cooked for everyone else. Now when I cook just for me, I hear this little voice in my head saying, 'Why bother?'" "Maybe you need a louder voice," I said. "One that says you are worth a decent meal." She tilted her head and studied me. "You always did have a way of saying simple things that stick." I shrugged, trying to hide how much that meant. "I am full of simple things." We moved down the aisle together without really deciding to. She picked out vegetables. I pretended I knew what to do with them. At the end of the row, she stopped and looked at my basket. "Is that your dinner?" she asked. I looked at the pizza and coffee. Unfortunately, yes. She hesitated, then did something that surprised both of us. "Come over," she said. My brain stalled. "What?" "Come over," she repeated, a little nervous now. I am making real food tonight. You can be the official taste tester. That way I feel less ridiculous cooking for one. I wanted to say yes so fast it scared me. I also knew there was a line here. She was my ex's mother. She was married, even if her husband was never around. People would talk if they saw us. But then I remembered her sitting alone at the restaurant. The way she said the house felt bigger now. The way I had felt less alone sitting across from her. "Are you sure?" I asked. She gave a small smile. I would not have asked if I was not. "Then yes," I said, "I would like that." We checked out at the same time and drove separately. On the way to her house, my hands felt slick on the steering wheel. This was different from the restaurant. That had been an accident. This was a choice. Her house looked the same as always from the outside. Nice yard, porch light glowing, the kind of place that looked like a postcard version of family life. Inside, it felt different from how I remembered. Quieter. There were still photos on the walls. Lauren at different ages. Vacations. A younger Diane. But there were also empty spaces where I could tell pictures had been taken down. She led me into the kitchen and set the bags on the counter. "You can put that over there," she said, pointing to a spot near the stove. "Unless you want to frame the frozen pizza as a cautionary tale." "You never know," I said. "Might be my masterpiece." She poured us each a glass of wine. Not in a flirty way, more like two adults at the end of a long day. "Thank you again for the other night," she said as she washed vegetables. "I keep thinking about how different that evening would have felt if you had not walked over." "I am glad I did," I said honestly. "I have been thinking about it too." She glanced at me, then focused on the cutting board. "What part?" she asked. "The part where you said you felt like a candle," I answered, "in a house full of fireworks." She paused mid-slice, the knife hovering in the air. Then she set it down carefully. "I did say that, did not I?" she said quietly. "You did," I said, "and it has been stuck in my head ever since." Quote. She took a breath and went back to chopping. "Sometimes I forget that people hear me when I talk," she said. "I am so used to being the background." "You are not background," I said. She did not answer right away. Instead, she handed me a cutting board and a knife. "Since you are here, you might as well be useful," she said. "We cooked together like we had done dishes all those months ago." She moved around the kitchen with easy rhythm. I followed her instructions, chopped what she told me to chop, stirred what she told me to stir. We bumped into each other a few times, apologizing and laughing, but the space between us felt strangely natural. At the table, the food smelled amazing. Some kind of roasted chicken with lemon and herbs. Real vegetables that were not microwaved. "This is incredible," I said around my first bite. "You are easily impressed," she said, but I saw the way her eyes warmed at the compliment. We talked about small things at first. Weather, work, the latest show everyone was watching. Then, the conversation slid into deeper water. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a while. "Sure," I said. "When Lauren broke up with you," she began, choosing her words carefully, "did it feel like she was telling you that you were not enough?" The question hit me like a punch. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Yeah," I said. "It did." She nodded, looking down at her plate. "When Mark tells me I am too serious, too quiet, not fun enough at parties, it feels the same way, like being steady is a flaw." "Maybe we are the same species," I said. "Quiet humans living in a loud world." She laughed softly. "I like that." We fell into silence for a moment, not awkward, just full of things we were not saying. After dinner, we moved to the living room with our wine. Her living room was warm and lived in, a stack of books on the coffee table, a blanket folded on the couch, a candle that smelled like vanilla, and something else I could not name. Diane sat at one end of the couch. I sat at the other. There was space between us, but not much. "Do you miss her?" she asked suddenly. "Lauren?" I said. "Sometimes. I miss the idea of us more than the reality. Does that make sense?" "More than you miss her as a person," Diane said. "Yes, it does." "Do you miss Mark?" I asked carefully. She thought about it. "I miss who he was when we were younger." I miss who I was when I still believed I could make him happy just by trying harder. She shook her head. I do not miss feeling invisible in my own marriage. Her honesty made my chest ache. That sounds lonely, I said. It is, she agreed. The room felt small and quiet. The only sound was the soft music playing from a speaker and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I set my glass down on the table and turned slightly toward her. Diane, I said. Her name felt different in my mouth now. She looked at me, and in that moment, it was like we both realized where this was heading, even if neither of us had the words yet. This is strange, right? I said with a nervous half-smile. Me here, with you, like this. It is, she said. Very strange, then she added, but it does not feel wrong. The truth of that floated between us. I could feel my heart pounding. I knew there were 1,000 reasons to stand up and leave, to keep things simple, to keep lines clear. But there was another part of me that remembered sitting alone in my apartment, wondering if I would ever feel deeply connected to anyone again. And here I was, on a couch with a woman who saw me more clearly than most people my age ever had. I moved an inch closer, then another. If I am crossing a line, I said quietly, tell me and I will stop. She looked at me, her eyes searching my face. I could see the conflict there, the history, the fear. But I also saw something else, hunger for something real. You are not the only one crossing it, she whispered. I lifted my hand slowly and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. Her breath caught, just enough for me to hear it. My chest felt tight, my thoughts were loud, but my body knew exactly what it wanted to do. I leaned in. She did not move back. When my lips touched hers, it was soft at first. Careful. Like both of us were testing if this was real. Then she lifted her hand to my cheek, and the kiss deepened in a way that made the room disappear. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathing harder. Her eyes were bright with emotion and confusion and something like fear. This changes everything, she said quietly. I know, I said. The question is, do we want to change? She did not answer right away, but she did not let go of my hand either. Outside, somewhere in the neighborhood, a car door slammed and a dog barked. Inside that living room, sitting beside my ex's mother, I knew that whatever happened next, nothing about our lives would ever be simple again. We did not sleep together that night. I should probably say that clearly. Not because the chemistry was not there. It was. It was strong and terrifying and beautiful. But after that first kiss, Diane pulled back, put her forehead against mine, and whispered, I need to think. So we just sat there, her hand in mine, my heart pounding loud in my ears. This cannot be a small thing, she said finally. If we keep going, we are not just having a moment. We are starting something, and that something will affect a lot of people. I know, I said. Lauren, your husband, my friends, your family, I understand. Do you? She asked, searching my face. Because I am not sure I even understand all of it. I took a breath, trying to put words to what I felt. All I know is this, I said slowly. When I am with you, I do not feel like the safe, boring backup option. I feel seen. I feel equal. I feel right. I have not felt that way with anyone in a long time. Her eyes softened. You make me feel like more than someone's wife and someone's mother, she said. Like I am still a woman who gets to want things. Because you are, I said. She closed her eyes for a second, like she was weighing a huge decision. I am still married, she said. Even if Mark and I have been living separate lives for years, there is still a line there. And there is Lauren. She may not want you anymore, but you were part of her life. I am her mother. This us is going to hurt her. I did not pretend otherwise. You are right, I said. It will, and people will judge us. They will say things. Some of them will be ugly. But I cannot lie and pretend I do not want this. I do. I want you. I want whatever this is. Her fingers tightened around mine. What if I am being selfish? She whispered. Then be selfish with me, I said softly. Just once. For you, not for anyone else. She let out a shaky breath and opened her eyes again. "Go home tonight," she said. "Let me think. Let me talk to Mark. Let me decide if I am brave enough to step into this." It was the hardest thing I could have heard, and also the fairest. "Okay," I said. "I will go, but I need you to know something before I do." "What?" she asked. "If you decide no," I said, my voice low, "I will respect it. I will not push. I will not show up here. I will let you go. But if you decide yes, I am all in. No halfway, no secret fling. I want the whole thing, Diane. I want a real life with you." Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. "You always did surprise me," she said. "Even back when you were just the quiet guy at my table." Quote. She walked me to the door. Before I stepped out, she put her hand on my chest. "Give me a few days," she said. "Then I will call you." Those next few days felt like weeks. I went to work, I answered emails, I sat through meetings, I smiled at jokes. But underneath all of it, my brain was stuck on that couch, in that warm living room, with her hand in mine. I did not tell anyone what had happened. Not my parents. Not my friend Chris. I knew what they would say. That it was complicated. That it was dangerous. That I was asking for trouble. Maybe I was, but trouble had never felt so honest. On the fourth day, my phone buzzed while I was making coffee. Her name lit up the screen. Diane calling. My stomach dropped. My hands shook as I answered. "Hi," I said. "Can you come over?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but I could hear something underneath it. Nerves. Resolve. "Now, if you can." "I will be there in 20 minutes, I said. The drive felt longer than it was. When I pulled up, her car was in the driveway. Mark's was not. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. She opened after the first knock. Her face looked tired, like she had not been sleeping well. But there was something clear in her eyes. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I answered. We went to the kitchen, the same place where we had cooked a few nights earlier. A pot of coffee sat on the counter. 2 mugs waited beside it. "I talked to Mark," she said as she poured. "How did it go?" I asked. "As well as a conversation about ending a 25-year marriage can go," she said with a small, sad smile. "We were honest. We both knew we had been done for years. He admitted he had been seeing someone on his trips. I admitted that something had shifted for me too." She looked at me. "I did not give him details about you. I just told him I could not keep living half a life." "How do you feel?" I asked. "Free," she said. "Scared, guilty, but mostly free." We sat at the table across from each other, hands around our mugs even though neither of us drank. "Ethan," she said slowly, "I do not know how this ends. I cannot promise you that everyone will accept us. I cannot promise that Lauren will ever understand. But I can promise you this. If we do this, I will not pretend it is something small. I will not treat you like a secret I am ashamed of. I will choose you, fully." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Are you saying?" I started. "I am saying yes," she cut in. "Yes to us, yes to whatever this is, yes to the unthinkable." Relief flooded through me so fast I almost laughed. I reached across the table and took her hand. "Then, I guess we are in this together," I said. "In it together," she echoed. The next few months were messy and beautiful and hard. Diane and Mark started the separation process. It was not a screaming fight. It was more like 2 people finally admitting out loud what had been true for a long time. They divided their things. They made plans for the house. They talked about holidays and future grandkids they might share one day in different ways. Mark and I had one awkward conversation where he asked if I was serious about her. "Yes," I said, "I am." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Treat her better than I did," he said. "That is all I ask." Our relationship stayed quiet at first, but not secret. Diane told her sister. I told my parents. My mom was shocked, then thoughtful, then strangely happy for me. "You always liked older souls," she said. "I just did not think you would choose one 25 years older." My dad shook my hand and said, "If she makes you better, that is what matters." The hardest part, like we knew it would be, was Lauren. For weeks, Diane tried to reach her. Calls, texts, messages that went read but not answered. Lauren had found out about the separation through Mark, and the news of her parents splitting on top of their already complicated history was too much. Then one Sunday afternoon, while I was at Diane's house helping her move boxes from the garage, the front door opened. Lauren walked in. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes dropped to the box in my hands, then to Diane standing beside me. "What is he doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp. Diane stepped forward, her hands shaking slightly. "Lauren," she said, "we need to talk." Lauren laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What now? You already dropped the divorce bomb. What is left?" Quote. My heart pounded. I set the box down slowly and wiped my hands on my jeans. "Lauren," I said carefully, "maybe you should sit." "I am not sitting," she snapped. "I am asking a simple question. Why is my ex-boyfriend in my parents' house, acting like he lives here?" Diane looked at me, then back at her daughter. "Because he is part of my life now," she said. "Ethan and I, we are together." Silence, heavy and sharp. Lauren stared at her, then at me, as if she had misheard. "You are what?" she asked. "We are in a relationship," Diane said. Her voice was calm, but her fingers were twisting together. "It started months after you and Ethan ended things. It was not planned. It was not something either of us went looking for. But it happened. And it is real." Lauren's face flushed red. "You've got to be kidding me," she said. "You are dating my ex? My ex? Mom? That is sick." "It is not like that," Diane said gently. "We did not." "How else is it?" Lauren cut her off. "You chose to hook up with someone I brought into this family. Do you know how insane that is?" Quote. "This is not a game to me," I said, before I could stop myself. "I love her, Lauren." She turned on me like a storm. "Of course you do," she said, her eyes flashing. "You always loved stability. You found the ultimate version. A woman who cooks and listens and will never ask you to do anything scary." "Stop," Diane said quietly. "That is not fair." "What is not fair is finding out my mother is sleeping with my ex," Lauren shot back. "What is not fair is being told my parents are divorcing and then having to watch you play house with the guy that first used to love." I took a breath, trying to stay calm. "Lauren," I said, "you ended things with me for good reasons. You wanted someone different. That is okay. But what your mom and I have, it is not about you. It is about us." She laughed again, brittle and sharp. "Pretty convenient that your new great love just happens to be my mother," she said. "Do you know how that looks?" "Yes," Diane said. "We know exactly how it looks. We have thought about it every day." "But Lauren, I need you to hear me. I was dying inside before this." Quietly, slowly. I was being a wife and a mother and nothing else. I forgot I was allowed to be happy too. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not look away. "Ethan reminded me that I am not finished," she said softly. "That I still get to want things. That love can be calm and still be deep. I did not betray you on purpose. I fell in love when I had given up on the idea completely." The room felt like it was holding its breath. Lauren's eyes shone with tears she refused to let fall. "I cannot do this," she said finally, her voice shaking. "I cannot look at you two and pretend this is normal." She grabbed her bag and started toward the door. Before she stepped out, she turned back, her voice quieter. "Maybe one day I will understand," she said, "but not today." The door closed behind her. The echo of it stayed in the air. Diane's shoulders slumped. She sank onto the stairs and put her face in her hands. "I just lost her," she whispered. I sat beside her and wrapped an arm around her. "You did not lose her," I said softly. "She is hurt. She is angry. She has a right to be. But she loves you. That does not disappear." "What if I made the wrong choice?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What if I chose my happiness and lost my daughter for good?" The honest answer was that I did not know. Nobody could know. But I knew this. You did not choose me over her, I said. You chose not to disappear. That is not wrong. And I am going to be here, no matter how long it takes for her to forgive you. The months that followed were slow and full of small steps. Lauren did not call. Diane did not push. She sent occasional texts, holiday messages, photos of old family recipes she found, soft little reminders that she still existed, but she left the door open without forcing her way through it. In the meantime, our life together started to take shape. We cooked dinner together in that same kitchen. We went for walks in the rain. We watched old movies on the couch, Diane explaining the actors and I making sarcastic comments about the special effects. I worked from a small desk she cleared for me in the spare room. She started painting again in the garage. Soft colors and bold strokes returning to hands that had been still too long. The separation turned into a finalized divorce. It was sad, but not violent. Mark found an apartment closer to his office. He started seeing the woman he had been quietly dating. They were polite to each other at family events. My parents invited Diane and me over for dinner. Her sister invited us to a barbecue. Little by little, we became a real couple in the eyes of the people who mattered. One evening, about a year after that first night in the restaurant, we were cooking together when Diane's phone buzzed on the counter. She picked it up. Her eyes widened. "It is Lauren," she said. My chest tightened. "Answer it," I said. She did, hands trembling slightly. "Hi, honey," she said. "Is everything okay?" There was a long pause. Then, faintly, I could hear Lauren's voice through the speaker. "I am in the neighborhood," she said. "Can I come over?" When Diane hung up, she looked at me, panic and hope mixed in her eyes. "What do we do?" she asked. "We do what we have been doing," I said. "We tell the truth. We show her this is real. We let her feel whatever she feels." Lauren arrived 15 minutes later. She looked older somehow, not in a bad way. Just like someone who had lived through a lot of hard days. She stood in the doorway, looking at us in the kitchen. Diane in an apron. Me stirring a pot. For a second, I could see how strange it must look. "We were just making dinner," Diane said softly. "Do you want to join us?" Lauren hesitated, then nodded. "Okay," she said, "just dinner." Sitting at that table, the air felt thick at first. We talked about safe things, work, weather, the city. But, slowly, the conversation edged toward the thing we had all been avoiding. Lauren set her fork down and looked at both of us. "I am still not okay with how this started," she said. "I still think it is weird. I still feel like I walked into some alternate universe every time I see you together." "I understand," I said. "That will not change overnight." "But," she continued, surprising both of us, "I have spent a year watching you two from a distance, hearing about you from Dad, from Aunt Claire, from mutual friends. And the thing that keeps coming up is that Mom is happy, really happy. In a way I have never seen before." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "I am," she said quietly. "I did not expect to be, but I am." Lauren's lips trembled, but she kept going. "I also had a relationship crash and burn," she said. "A guy who looked exciting on paper, who made everything feel like a movie until the credits rolled and I realized I was the only one still sitting there." She gave a small, sad smile. "Turns out excitement is not the same as love." No one spoke for a moment. "I still do not love this," she said, gesturing between us, "and I do not know if I ever will. But I am starting to understand how you could get here. Both of you. And I do not want to lose my mom. Or my friend." Quote. "Friend?" I repeated softly. She looked at me. "You were a good boyfriend," she said. "Just not the right one for me. That is on me, not you. If you make her happy, I cannot hate you for that." Relief flooded the room like light. Diane reached across the table, her hand shaking. "Thank you," she whispered. "I am not giving my blessing," Lauren said quickly, but there was a hint of a smile now. "I am just not walking away anymore. That is all I can do right now." "That is enough," I said. "Really?" And it was. That was our turning point. We did not become some perfect modern family overnight. There were still awkward moments, there were still flashes of hurt, but the sharp edge of betrayal slowly dulled into something else. something like acceptance, something like a new shape of love. 2 years after that night in the restaurant, I took Diane back to Marlowe's. Same corner table, same soft music, same warm lights. She looked around and laughed softly. "Can you believe all of this started right here?" she asked. "Yes," I said, because I remember exactly how it felt to see you alone and know I could not just walk past. After dinner, I reached into my pocket. My hand shook, but for a different reason now. "Diane," I said, getting to my feet. Her eyes widened as I went down on one knee. "I know this is not the life you planned," I said. "And it is not the one I imagined either. It is stranger and harder and more beautiful than anything I thought I would get. You have shown me that love does not have to be loud to be powerful. That steady does not mean boring. That being seen is the best kind of adventure there is." Her eyes filled with tears. "I want to keep choosing you," I said, "every ordinary day. Every complicated holiday, every grocery store run and quiet night on the couch. Will you marry me?" She laughed through her tears, covering her mouth with her hand. "Ethan," she whispered, "yes, of course yes." The restaurant did not break into applause or anything dramatic. A couple at another table smiled. The server brought us champagne. It was simple, small, perfect. Now, sitting here telling you this, I am 31. Diane is 56. People still stare sometimes when we walk into a room. They still make up their own stories. Some think I am with her for security. Some think she is with me for ego. None of them know about the nights we stayed up talking through fear, the hard conversations about family, the quiet mornings making coffee side by side. They do not know that the most unthinkable thing I ever did was also the most honest. I saw my ex's mother sitting alone on a date. I crossed a room I was not supposed to cross. I sat down at her table and said, "You look like you could use some company." And because of that choice, she is not alone anymore. Neither am I.